What happens when one woman's courage exposes the ugly truth behind abuse of power? In this video, a racist cop points a gun at a senior female army officer, but instead of backing down, she takes a stand that changes everything. Watch as her bravery forces justice to prevail, showing that integrity always triumphs over arrogance. Colonel Emma Brooks walked into a small supermarket in Austin, Texas on a peaceful weekend afternoon. Dressed in a white shirt, blue jeans, and sneakers, she looked like any other customer. No one could have guessed that this woman had once commanded hundreds of soldiers and dedicated her career to protecting her country. Emma cherished these quiet moments of shopping after long, demanding days at work. The calm was soon disrupted by what seemed like a minor incident. At the end of an aisle, a tall man in a police uniform, Paul Smith, accidentally dropped a pack of noodles and a bottle of soda on the floor. Paul glanced at the mess but walked away without picking it up. Trained to notice details and take responsibility, Emma couldn't ignore it. She stepped forward and said calmly, "Sir, you dropped something. Perhaps you should pick it up so it doesn't inconvenience others." Paul turned around, his gaze cold and dismissive. He replied arrogantly, "Who do you think you are? Telling me what to do? I don't have time to bother with such trivial things." Despite his attitude, Emma remained composed, her eyes steady. As a police officer, you have a responsibility to set an example for the community. Picking up after yourself isn't just about manners, it's about respect for others. Paul was unmoved by her words. Instead, he sneered and responded with condescending remarks. The atmosphere in the supermarket grew tense as more customers started paying attention. Even with the curious, hesitant stares of those around her, Emma stood firm, determined to uphold her principles. Paul stared at Emma with disdain, standing there smugly with no intention of following her advice. Although annoyed, Emma drew on her experience as an officer who had faced far more intense situations to stay calm. She took a deep breath and spoke with quiet authority. "Sir, this isn't just about something small. You're in uniform, and everyone here is watching. A simple act like picking up those items isn't just your duty as a citizen, it reflects on your profession." Paul smirked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You think you know about the responsibilities of a cop? This isn't worth worrying about. Honestly, you should mind your own business." Emma felt the weight of the crowd's eyes on her. Some people even pulled out their phones to record the scene. She wasn't distracted by the attention. To her, this wasn't just a petty argument. It was a chance to stand up for the values she believed in. Looking Paul in the eye, Emma said firmly but calmly, "You've underestimated me. What you do today doesn't just affect me, it reflects on you." Paul laughed derisively, refusing to take her seriously. But Emma knew her actions at that moment could demonstrate the difference between true leadership and abusing authority. "We're not here to argue," Emma continued, her voice steady but powerful. "I'm only reminding you that your actions don't just affect others, they show who you are when you wear that uniform." Emma's pointed words captured the crowd's attention. Paul, sensing the growing discomfort of being watched, tried to mask his embarrassment with arrogance. He let out a loud, mocking laugh that echoed through the store. "Responsibility?" Paul scoffed. "Who do you think you are to lecture me? Just an ordinary woman. Nothing more, nothing less. Don't think you have the right to tell me what to do." Paul's words, laced with sexism, struck at Emma's dignity, but instead of letting her emotions take over, she took a deep breath and stood her ground. "I don't need you to understand who I am," Emma said, her voice low but firm. "I want you to understand that everyone deserves respect. If you can't show that, you don't deserve to wear that uniform." Paul laughed even louder, his laughter filled with mockery. "You think you can do something to me? I'm a cop. The law is on my side. You're just an ordinary woman, and a woman of color at that. You know your place before you cause trouble." Paul's words weren't just disrespectful, they were a direct challenge, but Emma remained unshaken. Emma stood upright, her shoulders stiff as if she were facing an enemy on the battlefield, not a man in a police uniform. Her eyes lit up with steadfastness, unwavering even though Paul's words were full of mockery and insult. The surrounding crowd grew quieter, as if they were all holding their breath, waiting to see her next move. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. Emma stepped forward with unwavering confidence, her voice calm yet firm. "You can see me however you like. But remember, arrogance and contempt for others won't mask your moral flaws. I'm not here to fight for power, but I won't let you misuse it either." Paul's confidence began to falter. as he saw Emma's determined demeanor. He looked at her, searching for a sign of fear or hesitation, but saw only a woman standing resolute like a statue. The crowd, now fully engaged, began to pull out their phones to record the confrontation. "Don't act noble in front of me," Paul growled, trying to regain control. "You're just causing trouble. I can kick you out anytime." Emma remained calm, a slight twitch at the corner of her mouth showing only a terrifying sense of control. "If you think your power lets you behave like this, the law will answer for it. I'm not afraid of you." The supermarket was filled with tension as the two stood face to face, Paul, large and imposing, against Emma, a woman without a uniform, but whose presence radiated undeniable authority. "You can insult me all you want, but I'm not here for my own honor," Emma said, her voice steady and powerful. "I'm here for the values I've spent my life protecting." The supermarket fell silent, the crowd watching closely, and while no one spoke, their eyes showed their support for Emma. Paul, maintaining his tough exterior, could feel his control slipping. Emma stood like a beacon of righteousness in the face of prejudice. As Paul began to lose his composure, Emma remained unshaken, knowing that her actions were not only about her own defense, but about standing up for justice and fairness. Paul took a step forward, his voice sharp with aggression. "I'm warning you, don't make this worse. I'm the police and I have the right to deal with you." His words had no effect on Emma. She pulled out her phone slowly, not in panic, but with calculated precision. "You have your rights," she said, her voice as sharp as a blade, "and I have mine. Let's see whose side the law will be on." She dialed a number and calmly explained, "I need assistance at the central supermarket. A police officer is abusing his power and threatening customers. I need immediate support." Paul's eyes widened as he realized the situation was out of his control. The crowd began to murmur, some even stopping their recordings to call for help. "What do you think you're doing?" Paul yelled, taking another step toward Emma. She didn't flinch. "I'm doing what you should be doing, defending fairness and responsibility," she said, her voice firm. Just then, police sirens blared outside, signaling the arrival of reinforcements. The crowd parted as officers entered, and Emma pointed at Paul, her gaze unwavering. "This is the man you need to consider. His actions have been fully documented and witnessed." Paul's arrogance faded as the reality of his situation set in. His tough facade crumbled, replaced by confusion and anxiety. Emma, calm and composed, knew that her intelligence and courage had brought justice one step closer. The doors of the supermarket opened, and Mayor Andrew Preston stepped in, his commanding presence intensifying the atmosphere. His sharp eyes scanned the room before landing on Emma. Paul, now visibly nervous, stammered, trying to explain, "Mr. Mayor, this is just a misunderstanding." "Shut up," Andrew interrupted, his voice low but authoritative. "I came here because of an urgent call from Colonel Emma Anderson, a woman I respect deeply. Your actions have been reported, and many people have witnessed them. No amount of excuses can undo what you've done." Emma stood firm, her expression stoic. She felt a slight relief that justice was on its way, but her resolve remained strong. Andrew turned to her, his eyes softening. "Colonel Anderson, I hope you weren't harmed. This behavior is unacceptable and will be dealt with." "I'm fine," Emma replied, her voice calm. "But this isn't just about me. It's about holding those in power accountable. If I hadn't stepped up, others would have suffered the same injustice." Andrew's eyes turned cold as he addressed Paul. "You've abused your power, insulted a military officer, and lost the public's trust in the police force. You don't deserve to wear that uniform." A female witness from the crowd stepped forward, offering her phone with a video of the incident. Andrew watched it, his expression hardening. "This behavior is intolerable," he declared, turning to the officers who had just arrived. "Strip him of his weapons and insignia immediately. An investigation will be opened, and he will face the full consequences of his actions." Paul, completely devastated, was left speechless as officers followed Andrew's orders. The crowd outside began applauding, showing their respect for Emma and the mayor's swift action. Emma, though not seeking honor, felt a deep sense of relief. Turning to her, Andrew spoke with respect. "Colonel Anderson, this city needs people like you to remind us of responsibility and integrity. I'm sorry for what you went through." Emma nodded, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Mayor. I just hope this leads to real change." Andrew assured her, "We're going to make sure of that." As Emma left the supermarket, her heart lightened. She knew the fight for fairness and accountability would never end, but she was ready to continue standing up for those who couldn't do so themselves. Meanwhile, Paul, having been stripped of his badge and weapon, was taken away in silence. His former arrogance was replaced by fear and confusion as the crowd's critical gazes followed him. At the police station, video evidence and witness testimony made Paul's actions undeniable. The head of the police department, informed by Mayor Andrew, described Paul's behavior as a stain on the profession. That day, Paul was officially suspended and a thorough investigation was launched. News of the incident spread rapidly, with videos of Paul's abuse of power circulating widely, sparking outrage. Past victims of Paul also came forward, further damaging his reputation. Once proud of his position, Paul now faced the collapse of his career and isolation from former friends and colleagues. In contrast, Emma lived on with humility, receiving thanks and admiration from the community. Her actions not only held Paul accountable, but also ignited a broader discussion about ethics and responsibility in law enforcement. Paul's downfall continued as he faced legal charges, including abuse of power and threats. At trial, he showed no trace of the arrogance he once had. His fall from grace was a direct consequence of his disregard for the responsibilities that came with his power. In the aftermath, Emma's life transformed. Her story spread quickly and she became a symbol of courage and justice. The press, media, and activists hailed her as a modern-day hero, but Emma did not see herself that way. To her, it was simply her duty as a soldier and a citizen to protect the values of fairness. The impact of the incident soon became evident. Local police forces were scrutinized more closely and changes were made in their selection and training processes. Emma was invited to speak at seminars on responsibility and ethics in law enforcement, where she shared her experiences and stressed that power is meaningful only when used to protect, not oppress. Paul, on the other hand, lost everything. His career was over, and the public trial ensured that his abuse of power would haunt him forever. The community turned its back on him, and former supporters could not forgive his actions. In the isolation of his small home, Paul began to grasp the weight of his mistakes. As for Emma, she continued her military service with quiet determination. Though she became an inspiration for many, she remained focused on her duty, embodying strength through integrity and courage. Every time she reflected on the incident, she felt no regret, only pride in knowing that her actions had contributed to positive change in society. Emma's legacy extended beyond reforms in law enforcement. She became a role model for younger generations, especially women and people of color, who often face discrimination. Her story inspired many to stand up against injustice and defend dignity and human rights in all circumstances. The changes in police recruitment and training, which Emma had helped initiate, were beginning to yield results. More officers were becoming aware of their responsibilities, and the process of hiring and training police personnel was being reshaped to ensure more ethical standards. Emma's impact wasn't limited to professional reforms, it was also evident in her daily life. She became a living example of how integrity and determination could create lasting change. Though she didn't seek fame, the respect she earned from everyone from her colleagues to the community was proof of the power that comes from standing by one's principles. Despite facing difficulties and challenges throughout her career, Emma has always stood her ground. She understands that heritage is not something that can be measured by fame or awards, but by the values that one person has left in the hearts of others. For Emma, her legacy is the change she has sparked, the solid steps that the next generation will follow, the generations who stand up for justice and are not afraid of injustice. And so, no matter how many years pass, Emma Anderson's legacy will live on, not only in seminars and speeches, but in the hearts of those who continue to fight for a more just and equitable society. After the affair with Paul Smith ended, Emma Anderson did not stop at solving a personal case, but set herself a greater mission. She realized that injustice is not a rare thing, but a common problem that needs to be changed from the roots. Every day, every story she hears from oppressed and abused people makes her feel more responsible in her actions. She understands that it is not possible to rely solely on outstanding individuals to change, but that there is a need for a broad movement where everyone can speak up and fight for their rights. Emma began to engage in call-to-action campaigns, inviting people, especially law enforcement, to reconsider their roles and responsibilities in upholding justice. She organizes meetings, workshops, and media campaigns to encourage each individual to stand up and face injustice instead of being silent. Each of us has the right to say no to abuse of power, and each of us can make a difference is a slogan she frequently mentions in speeches. Emma's encounters not only engage those in the military, but also extend to individuals in the civilian community who feel left out or have no voice in society. Emma encourages them not to be afraid in the face of power because justice is a fundamental right that cannot be trampled. Emma's mood at this time was no longer the same caution as before, but a strong determination. She understands that every action, every call creates spillover power, and that is the way to change the system in a long-term and sustainable way. Emma is not only fighting for herself, but also for those who can't speak up for themselves, for the fairer society she dreams of. The call to action is not easy, but Emma is ready to face the challenge. She understands that this is a long road and that not everyone will be with her. But she believes in the power of solidarity and in the ability of each individual to make a difference if they don't stop fighting. With each step, Emma has been turning her struggle into a powerful movement, a reminder that justice must be defended not just for an individual, but for the entire community.